So for today's video, I'm going to compare 3 different tripods and ball heads that I use for astrophotography using the Nikon Z camera, as well as the FTZ adapter. So with these 3 tripods, each of them has a different height. The 3 different ball heads, each one of them has a different pros and cons to them. But I will tell you, there's still the same issue with this FTZ adapter getting in the way of all the ball heads. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. That happens especially during the night, where it can be kind of challenging to put the FTZ adapter on your camera in the middle of the dark. The first tripod I'm going to show you, I'm going to put my Nikon camera down, is going to be the Sirui AM284 tripod. This is a great tripod in that it's very stable. It doesn't have a ball head, so I purchased a Benro IB2 ball head. The benefit of this ball head is it has not only a panning knob, but it has an on-off knob to allow you to rotate the ball head, and it has a friction control knob. So I really like this ball head. It works pretty well. It has a bubble level and a clamp with a special security feature so you don't drop your camera. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of this Sirui. The second tripod I'm going to review is the Feisol Tournament CT3442 tripod with a Really Right Stuff BH40 ball head. I'll show you the pros and cons of this setup too. The third tripod I'm going to show you is a $99 Neewer N55C tripod that already comes with a ball head included in the price. So let's take a look at the Neewer tripod. This has always been one of my favorite ones, even though it's only $99 on Amazon. It does come with a center column so you can raise it, which to me is a big benefit. I'm 6'2". I don't like small tripods, especially doing astrophotography where you're having to bend down with your star tracker and polar align your star tracker and then put the camera on and everything is real low and you got to bend down to the ground and hurt your back. I don't like that. So the benefit of using a tripod like this is it does have a center column that raises. The disadvantage is that it is occasionally a little shaky. You can see it shake, although we're on carpet. I'm going to show you on flat surface how it performs on a flat surface. But what's great about this tripod is you can lower it. It's very light, only weighs 2.5 pounds. The legs pop up nice and easy. It's carbon fiber. Just twist, turn. Nice easy buttons to use on this Neewer, and everything folds the other way, so I can pack this in my luggage if I'm going out west or if I'm going to a workshop. This folds nice and neat. It's only about 18 inches tall, nice, portable, easy, small, that fits in your backpack. So one other point I'd like to make about this Neewer tripod is the ball head. Now, I'll be honest with you, the ball head is not the best in the world. It's not the worst, but it is easy to use. You only have a panning knob. The panning is actually fairly smooth, and you've got a friction control and stop knob. And you do have, of course, the locking mechanism, the locking knob on the clamp with the bubble. Very easy to use. It supports a camera with a telephoto lens. I haven't had any issues other than occasional sagging, but this ball head is pretty smooth and it does a pretty good job for the price. Okay, so for the next tripod I'm going to show you is the Sirui AM284 tripod. This has been a pretty sturdy tripod for me. I love it for astrophotography. The only issue I have is the height. Look how short it is. It's only 4 feet tall. This is one of those tripods where you're going to need, if you use a star tracker like the Star Adventurer Pro, it'll add some height, probably about 10 inches. You put your camera on top of there. So it's not too bad once you get your star tracker and your camera on this. But if you were to just use your camera on top of this, you really do have to bend down and it makes life a little painful. I did add a separate ball head on this. In this case, I bought a Benro IB2 ball head for less than $200. It's a pretty high quality ball head that has done well for me. It does support cameras and your gear up to, I think, about 15 or 20 pounds, which is plenty for me. I haven't had any issues with my camera or my lenses sagging on this. If you look more closely, you'll see it has pretty nice smooth panning, has a panning knob, which locks in place pretty easily. Also has the on-off knob for the ball head, and it has a separate friction control knob, which tightens up the ball head. Occasionally I've found that I had to tighten this friction control knob a little too much, especially when I had a real heavy lens like the old 14 to 24 millimeter lenses or even the Rokinon lens. But for the most part, it's done a pretty good job. The other feature I like is it does have a clamp knob with a security feature that you do have to pull out in order to release your camera, so your camera doesn't slide out of the clamp, and it does have a bubble level. So just like the Newer tripod, the Cirruid tripod also operates with these rubber wheels on it. It's got nice thick carbon fiber legs, pretty easy to fold up. They're nice and tight, so it keeps the dirt out when you fold these up and when you use them in a more dusty or dirty environment. It folds up to about 20 inches. If you want, you can take the ball head if you're traveling, just remove the ball head, put this in another pocket in your backpack or luggage, and then just keep the tripod separate. It's only about 19 or 20 inches. The other nice thing about this tripod and the ball head is the Cirruid tripod is only about 150, 160 bucks on Amazon. The ball head is a little under $200. So between the two of them, you're looking at a quality ball head and a tripod for under $500. You can get a center column for this, which I did order. The center column is about $30 and it adds about 10 inches. So I'm hoping that will solve the issue of having a really short tripod, and I'll test it out to make sure that the center column doesn't add any instability when you're doing long exposure photography at night. So the last tripod and ball head I wanted to show you is the Feisol Tournament CT3442 tripod with the Really Right Stuff BH40 ball head. So with this tripod and ball head, let's focus on each one separately. Now this tripod is a little over $400, so it's fairly expensive. It's about $410 on Amazon or BH Photo. The Really Right Stuff ball head is about a little over $400 also. You have to order it either from B&H Photo or directly from Really Right Stuff. We don't have any good camera stores here in Atlanta. Unfortunately, most of them closed. So you really do have to just read the reviews or watch the reviews on the internet before you buy it. Otherwise, you'll end up returning a lot of ball heads that you're not happy with, as is this case. What I wanted to show you today is the Faisal tripod. What's nice about it is a nice height. It's about 56 inches tall, so I don't have to bend down, especially when you put the ball head on the camera on top of it. It's going to be tall enough to hit just about eye level. That's the benefit of it. The other benefit of this, it is really light. It's less than 2.5 pounds. It's carbon fiber. The legs are pretty good width. What I don't like is the legs at the end are really thin, and that does add some instability. I found that with this Feisal tripod, it's not as stable for long exposures as the Cirui tripod was, which was less than half the price of this tripod. So although this tripod might be great for landscape photographers, portrait photographers, I personally don't think it's that great for astrophotography, just because it does vibrate a lot because of the very thin lights. Another thing I do like about the Feisal is that besides being light, it is easy to turn the rubber wheels on it and fold it up. It's very smooth. The legs are smooth. They come in and out very smooth. Seems to be well put together. It does keep the dust out. Another nice feature is the legs do fold backwards. And so it's only about 19 to 20 inches. This does fit in your backpack. However, if you look at the diameter of this platform base, it's huge. I don't know why they make this so big here, but none of the other tripods seem to have as big of a rounded platform base. And so if you're going to put this in your backpack or your luggage, you might want to stuff it with some other items, a t-shirt or something. Or if you're going to keep your ball head in here, that's fine. But you're going to see that the ball heads are so tiny compared to this huge platform base. I don't know if that really affects performance. The company says it adds some stability because it widens the legs out. That's about the only benefit I see of this. All right, if you look at the front of this, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a really big base. And if I put the ball head on here, you'll see how small it looks compared to how wide this base is. This is the Really Right Stuff BH40 ball head with a lever clamp. Here's my review of this. It's okay. I don't think it's great. It's not the worst ball head in the world, but it does have some features that are really annoying to me. Let me show you what I mean. So here's what I like about it. It has a clamp here that fits your camera pretty well. When you lock the clamp in, it locks it in pretty good. It also has a friction control knob that does a good job of keeping your camera in place, especially with large lenses. And it has a big key knob that you can feel at night and not miss, that allows you to move your ball head. What I don't like is that this key knob, if you tilt your camera back, this key knob hits the clamp. This clamp lever is so big that this key knob keeps hitting it, I find, at night. All right, so I'm gonna put the camera on here and show you what I'm talking about. If you wanna come around here. When you put the camera in, it's nice and easy to put in the clamp. You just flip the lever to the right. The lever is actually pretty hard to push in. There's a lot of pressure. You'll notice if you don't set your friction control, the camera will sag. But if you set your friction control, you can still move the camera without it falling. The key knob is to keep the ball head from falling. The friction control knob allows you to move your camera around without the lens falling when the key knob is released. So here's what I do like about this BH40 Really Right Stuff ball head. The panning knob makes it nice and easy to pan. It is pretty smooth. The only difficulty is getting the ball head to stay on the tripod without and not moving while you're doing the panning. Occasionally, if you don't turn it tight enough, you're going to find that the entire ball head is moving. And it's not because of the panning, it's because it's loose from the screw on the Feisol tripod. But it is pretty smooth. Easy to lock in. It's got a knob that you can feel at night that's a different shape than the friction control, and also very different than the key knob for releasing the ball head. So you're not going to mix them up at night. I do like the friction control knob. It does a good job of keeping the camera in place. I can move the ball head. I can move the camera without worrying about the camera sagging. And this does support pretty good size lenses. I'm not sure what size lens it would support. I heard that it supports up to 300 millimeters, even up to 400 millimeter telephoto lenses, but I haven't tried those out yet. So let's review what I don't like about this ball head, especially for astrophotography at night. This key knob always seems to get in the way of the clamp. It's so big that it hits the clamp all the time. Now realize you can ratchet this and move the key knob, but then you're constantly doing this all night. The second thing I don't like is you can't aim your camera lens at the sky at a convenient angle. If you look, this is about it. That's all you can aim your camera at the sky, unless you turn your camera around and use the little notch that's in here. In that case, you can aim it. So if you don't mind moving around your tripod, you can use the little notch that comes on here to aim your camera high. In that case, you're going to use your levers here to lock and unlock the ball head just from the opposite end. Not a big deal, but at night I do find it gets to be a little bit annoying. So you can aim it high. If you want to aim your camera sideways, you would have to turn the ball head, aim the camera sideways, but then your camera is hitting the Faisal tripod. So if you do want to aim your lens at the sky, you have to use the little notch on the other side of the camera, walk around your tripod, and at night it gets to be kind of a pain, but you can aim your camera at the sky. You're not going to get a straight up and down vertical view of the sky, but you do get a pretty good angle. Now, if you want to turn your camera sideways, either you can take the camera off and put it on portrait mode, or if you turn the ball head, you can tilt the camera sideways, but you'll notice, again, the lever clamp and the clamp on this ball head keep hitting the tripod. So you're really limited in how you use the little notch on the ball head because the camera keeps hitting the tripod. Again, minor nuisances, but just be aware of that. Now, let's say you want to switch between your Z lens and your F mount lens. You're going to need the FTZ adapter. Let me show you what happens if you try to put the FTZ adapter onto the camera while the camera is still on the ball head. First, I'm going to remove my Z lens. Then I'm going to attach the FTZ lens. And remember, you're doing this at night. It's very difficult. Look at what happens. You can't get the FTZ lens on the camera because it hits the ball head clamp. I found that just about every clamp on the market does the same thing. You can't get your FTZ adapter onto the ball head while your camera is mounted. What you have to do is remove your camera first, put your lens on the FTZ adapter, put the entire lens and adapter onto your camera, and then mount the whole thing onto your clamp in the dark. So let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. Here's the FTZ adapter. Here's a 70 to 300 millimeter lens that I use for photographing Orion Nebula, as well as other stars and other planets and other nebula, the Pleiades especially during the winter. So what I would do is I would go ahead, first thing I would do is I would attach the adapter to the lens. And then if I tried to put the lens on, again, there's no clearance to put your lens on because the ball head is in the way of the adapter. So what you have to do is remove your camera first. Take your camera, put on the entire lens and adapter, and then put your camera back onto the ball head, and there you go. That can be challenging when you're working at night in the dark, taking your entire camera off, putting the lens and putting the adapter back on, and then putting your camera back onto the ball head. And in addition, if you have a star tracker, you'll need to repolar align your star tracker, because now you removed your camera and your star tracker will most likely be out of alignment again. That's the issue I have with these ball heads, but unfortunately there's no ball head on the market yet that allows you to put your FTZ adapter onto the camera while it's still on the tripod. In all cases, for now, you'll have to remove it. I'm hoping someone invents either a clamp or a ball head or an L bracket that has enough thickness to it to raise your camera to give you enough clearance to allow you to put the FTZ adapter on. But for now, it's kind of a pain. You've got to remove everything, and hopefully Nikon or some ball head manufacturer or tripod manufacturer will come up with a solution with a new L bracket that will allow you to put the adapter on. In this next section, I'm going to show you all three tripods, and we're going to test them to see how much vibration they can withstand. For simplicity purposes, I put them all on a flat tiled surface so we don't have to worry about soft ground, and show you whether they can withstand light vibrations. The first tripod we're going to test is the Neor 55C. I've got a 70 to 300 millimeter lens attached to it, and I've set it onto 300 millimeters to simulate if we were to put this on full power in the night sky. Let's go ahead and turn the camera on, and we'll get a nice focus here. And you can see it's aimed at a tree through the window. If I do just a barely light tap, again, I'm just barely touching this. You can see it does show some vibrations. Now, if I were to lower this to 70 millimeters, you may not notice it as much, but it still vibrates. I went ahead and opened the door so we can get a view of the outside and the trees while keeping the tripods on the ground. So in this case, this is the Sirui AM284 tripod. I've got the Nikon Z with the FTZ adapter, and again, the 70 to 300 millimeter lens. I turn on the lens, lightly tap on one of the legs. You can hardly see any movement. The Cirruid Tripod actually does a really nice job of stabilizing and dampening any vibrations. I'm tapping moderate now, and still you don't see much movement. I tap very lightly, barely any movement. Now I'm going to move from 70 to 300. And let's tap it and see if there's any vibrations. Little bit of vibrations at 300 millimeters. Not too bad, but still there's still a little bit with just very, very slight tapping. Here I've got the Feisol Tournament Tripod with the Really Right Stuff BH40 ball head attached to the Nikon camera with the FTZ and of course the 70 millimeter to 300 millimeter telephoto lens. Right now everything looks fine, looks horizontal. We're at 70 millimeters. Let's go ahead and lightly touch one of the legs on the tripod. Tripod's doing okay when you tap the upper legs. If I tap the lower leg, obviously you get a little bit more vibration. But again, not too bad for a $400 tripod and a $400 ball head. If I zoom in to 300 millimeters, and I lightly tap the legs, the upper legs, you can see it makes much more of a difference. You do get more vibration at 300 millimeter. If I tap the lower leg, you clearly get a lot more vibration. It's the lower legs of this tripod that are the weak points. So my advice would be, if you're going to use the Faisal tripod, I wouldn't extend the lower legs if you're looking to do long exposure photography. So here I have a Rokinon Sp F 2.4 lens. It's a 14 millimeter lens attached to the FTZ adapter on the Nikon. Now, Rokinon has two different lenses. One is the $300 to $400 lens, that's the f2.8. This one is the step up. It's about $700 to $800, and it works with the Nikon cameras. It's the Sp F 2.4 lens. Let's go ahead and see how the vibrations affect this lens. Now in this case, because it's manual focus, I do need to focus the lens by turning the ring. That looks like that's pretty well focused. The focus square is green now. If I tap on the legs, you don't really see much vibrations. If I tap on the lower leg, again, just slight vibrations by tapping lightly on the lower leg. So all in all, with a wide angle lens, the vibrations may not matter. So if all you're going to do is Milky Way photography, then really you have a lot more leeway in which tripod you select, and it won't make as much of a difference. But if you're doing deep sky photography, then you do want to be choosier or pickier and get a better quality tripod. In this case, the Feisol seems to be good for Milky Way photography, but for the deep sky photography, it may not be sturdy enough. Welcome back. So let's talk about the results and our findings here. We've got the Faisal tripod, which I really like. However, it just, for $400, it doesn't seem to do a very good job for long exposure photography at night. It's got this really huge platform here that gets in the way of the BH40 ball head, and the legs are just really thin at the very end, which adds some instability. So to me, I'm going to return this one. The Neewer, I've had this for about 1.5 years. Tripod, it's $100. It's done a good job. It's probably the lightest of the 3 tripods. It's not the thickest, but it actually does a pretty decent job at night. And the ball head is just really easy to use. 2 knobs, your panning knob and your friction and lock knob. Nice and easy for $100. The Sirui I'm going to keep. I really like this with the Star Tracker, putting the Star Adventurer Pro, or even the Move Shoot Move Star Tracker, which I'm going to review those two and compare in another video. And I really do like this Benro IB2 ball head. It seems to do a better job than even the Really Right stuff, which costs over twice as much. Let's talk about the Really Right stuff BH40 ball head, which is similar to the BH55 ball head, although I haven't tried that one yet. But I understand it's also a low profile. I like the quality of the construction of this ball head. I know it's really popular. I know everyone says this is one of the best ball heads in the world. They love it. And maybe it works well for landscape photographers who take quick photographs during the day, or even wildlife photographers using this on a monopod, or just portrait photography. But for me, there's just too many clumsy things going on with this. The lever is a nice lever, but it's just huge. It's too big. It blocks everything. It blocks the key fob button. I know the button, you can ratchet it, but it still gets in the way. Also, you can't angle this much because you've got everything going in the way. So for me, spending $420 on this Really Right Stuff ball head, it's just not worth it. I think there's plenty of other options out there. So I'll keep looking. I'm gonna go ahead and return this and send it back to the company. Okay, so the last thing I'll talk about is we've got different lenses here with the FTZ adapter. Obviously, this FTZ adapter was not well thought out by Nikon because it's just too big for the camera. It interferes with tripods, and even more issues come up, especially at night when you're trying to switch between an F lens and a Z lens. You've got to take the whole camera off the tripod, put on the FTZ adapter, and then put on the F mount lens in the middle of the night, in the dark, and it's just kind of a real hassle. So hopefully someone will come up with a solution of a new clamp or ball head that allows you to raise the camera a little bit and give a little more clearance while you're putting this on the camera. Last thing, in my next video, I'm going to compare the Z lens, the 14mm to 24mm Nikon Z lens, which has gotten amazing reviews, with this Rokinon Sp F 2.4 lens that costs about $700. This Z lens costs about $2,400. So what I want to see is this lens really worth much more than the $700 lens? And if so, I'll keep the Z lens, and I'm going to go ahead and return or sell my Rokinon lens, because this Rokinon lens uses the FTZ adapter, and again, at night, it's a real pain to use. So I'm leaning more towards keeping the Z lens, which is what I think Nikon had in mind all along for most people. So with that in mind, I appreciate your watching, and I'll see you in the next video.